Flosstube, my name is Amy and I'm the GablesStitcher, and this is my very first Flosstube video. I've been watching Flosstube for a little bit over a year. At the time, I was in a big stitching slump. I had gone 4 to 5 years without picking up the needle. We had moved a few years prior and all of my stitching stuff was still in boxes in the closet waiting to be unpacked. And I'd look at it and I'd say, I really need to do something with this. But I wasn't sure I wanted to start stitching again. And I started to think, well, if I'm not going to stitch, I really should give everything away. But I wasn't ready to do that yet either. So I held on to it and I started to explore on Facebook. And I found some stitching groups on Facebook. And I joined them. And I started talking with people and looking at everybody's projects and started to think about those boxes a little bit. And then I saw people were talking about Flosstube, and I explored a little bit and found out that Flosstube was a really nice little corner of YouTube where people talk about their cross stitch and their projects. And I started watching it, and I watched whip parades, and I watched people's projects and their plans and their finishes, and I started to get really excited about cross stitch again. I opened up those boxes, pulled out a project, and started stitching. And I realized part of the reason why I hadn't been stitching is my LNS had closed, and I really lost track of and contact with a lot of local stitchers. And when I wasn't meeting with people on a regular basis, it was hard to stay interested in stitching. And Flosstube, to some extent, gave me that back. And I'm very thankful to everybody who puts themselves out there on Flosstube and shares their projects and gets people into stitching and gets people back into stitching and helped me rediscover a hobby that I really love. And I started thinking about making a video and I was a little scared to make a video, so I kept putting it off. Then I was thinking, well, you know, if everybody felt the way I did, then there'd be no Flosstube videos. And if there was no Flosstube videos, I'd still be looking at those boxes thinking, do I unpack them or do I get rid of everything? So I might as well make a Flosstube video because maybe, you know, I need to give back and I would like to meet other stitchers and maybe my projects might inspire somebody else or maybe not. But I decided to give it a try, so here I am. I live in Eastern Massachusetts. I'm married. My husband and I have been married for 18 years. We have 3 girls, 15, 12 and a half, and 11. And yes, we are almost in full teenage mode for 3 girls. They're wonderful. They're fun, they're challenging, but I have a lot of fun with them and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm a physical therapist. I haven't worked for a few years at this point. Excuse me, I'm a stay-at-home mom for my girls. I do a lot of driving around. I call myself the unpaid Uber driver, the dinner Houdini, the homework helper, but we have a lot of fun and it's great. Excuse me. My oldest and I are getting over being sick. My girls are great at sharing. Excuse me. Okay. I have been stitching for most of my life. When I was young, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother and my great-grandmother, and both of them were crocheters. My mother knit. I never really showed a lot of interest in those, but when I was little, they would buy me the little printed embroidery kits that were, you know, they were stamped, and it wasn't really stamped cross stitch. It was like a stamped flower, and you would back stitch it. And I'd make those, and my grandmother would crochet around the edges of it, and it'd be a nice little doily. And at the time, Fisher-Price sold little craft kits, and they had a lot of like plastic canvas stitching sets. And I would get those for Christmas and birthdays, and I love those. And I think I have a few of them around. I'll have to show them on another video that I completed when I was very young. I did pillowcases, and in the 80s, my mother started counter cross stitch. It was what moms did at the time. Lots of geese, little, everything was very country, prairie girls, and so she started cross stitching, and we moved when I was about 13, and moved, and I didn't have any friends in town. I was kind of bored. We lived in the middle of nowhere, or what I consider the middle of nowhere in eastern Massachusetts. And at that time, the women's magazines, Family Circle, Women's Day, would sometimes put cross-stitch patterns in them. And, I think my mom got sick of hearing me complain. And in her Women's Day magazine, there was a cross-stitch. So she pulled out some Aida, got some thread, gave me the cross-stitch, and sat me down and taught me how to do cut a cross-stitch. And that was when I started stitching. And I've really been stitching for most of my life since then. And I actually have that project, and I hate to say it, it's out of print. So this is the project. It says "Home is where the heart is." It is from Women's Day. The issue number, I'm not sure, but it was from July 1987. And this is my very first counted cross stitch. So I started it at the bottom, worked my way up, and ran out of floss. And it has sat with my stash ever since. So my stash was established in 1987. So yeah, for years this really bothered me because it was unfinished and I could never match the color floss. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and the color was off, and it just sat in a bag. And when I unpacked those boxes of cross-stitch materials, when we moved, after we moved and I started stitching, I looked at it and I said, you know what, I'm going to finish this. The color's not going to be the same, and I don't have a lot of margin, and this is before the day of needle minders. I have a nice rust spot on one of the flowers, which I don't think you'll be able to see, but I have a nice rust spot. But this is my history, so I'm going to finish it and maybe make it into a flat fold or a pillow. And, I reached the point in my life where I like finishing things, and we're going to do it. So maybe this year. But that was my very first cross-stitch project. So I stitched, actually stitched a decent amount in high school. Here and there, off and on. I would get cross-stitch kit for my birthday or, Christmas. There were a lot of, stores at that time that sold kits. And like I said, patterns were easy to find. My mother had a subscription to Cross-Stitch and Country Crafts. And so we always had cross-stitch patterns in the house, and I have a lot of her magazines now because she no longer cross-stitches. In college, I actually cross-stitched a lot. I had a group of friends that there was like 3 of us who really enjoyed stitching. And where I went to college, there were 2 LNSs that were close and were nice. And we would go there after exams. We'd go to the LNS to get ourselves a new project to stitch on, Thursday nights or Friday nights while we were watching TV in the dorm. And I can remember, I think I was a sophomore, and I discovered linen and even weave. I was looking at a stitched model on the wall of one of the LNSs, and I noticed that it wasn't on Aida. And I asked the shop employee, I go, what type of fabric is this on? Because it's not on Aida. And she said, oh, it's on linen. linen? And she was saying, yes, because if you have fractional stitches, you don't need to pierce the Ada. And it was like, sun shone down, the angels were singing, I'm like, because I hated piercing Ada. Those OCD tendencies don't like try to find the exact middle spot of that Ada. So since then, I've been primarily a linen or even weave stitcher, although I do use Ada for ornaments or for full coverage projects. But it's funny the things that you remember that were, you know, kind of life-changing events, because they're not necessarily the big events in life, but they're life-changing. So I stitched a lot after, like I said, over the summers too in college. I was a tour guide at the House of the Seven Gables in Salem, Massachusetts, and we had a lot of downtime when we worked there. You would do tours, but between tours there was a decent amount of downtime. So some of my friends and I would cross stitch and talk, and that's partly where my channel name GablesStitcher comes from, because I had made such good friends there, and friends I still have now, and it was really cool, you know, stitching with friends during the summer and just hanging out. I mean, I think it's a lot of what we enjoy doing as stitchers anyways, is meeting with friends, stitching, and hanging out. The other reason why my channel name is called GablesStitcher is because I found a home for those boxes when I unpacked them. We have an odd-shaped closet in our master bedroom that is in a gable. And it's one of those spots that I'm glad the closet's there, because otherwise it would have been wasted space. But it's not a closet you would use for a lot of things, but it's perfect for my cross stitch supplies. So hence GablesStitcher was born. So I've been doing a lot of finishes over the past year. Once I went through those boxes and saw how many whips I had, I said, oh, I need to get some of these done. Because when I was going through those boxes, I also realized how many things I had kitted up that I wanted to start. But I didn't want to start a lot of things without finishing a lot of things, because as we saw, I'm really good at not finishing things. So I went through and I went on a bit of a finishing frenzy. I finished about a dozen things in a year, and maybe over some of the next few videos I'll show those items that I finished. About half were framed, half were not. 3 of the things I finished were my children's birth samplers. My stitching friends were teasing me saying, are you going to finish them before they're married? They are all finished, they're all framed, and they're all on the wall. So it may have taken me 14, 11, and 10 years, but they're done and they're beautiful. And also, the other thing about Flosstube is very enabling. You see things that other people stitch, and you say, I gotta have that, I gotta stitch that. So you buy it and you want to start it. So I needed to finish things. So I finished some things last year, I plan on finishing some things this year, and I plan on starting some things too. And hopefully I'll be enabling like other people have enabled me. So I have 2 recent finishes in the last month. One of the things I finished is framed. It is a piece for my niece, who is also my goddaughter. I started it when my oldest was dancing, because I thought it would be perfect for her. I think I started it when she was 4. Remember I told you she was 15? So it had been sitting for a long time. It's a Country Cottage Kids pattern. I think it's Country Cottage Kids #1. So it tells you how old it is, because I'm pretty sure I bought it when it first came out. So this is it complete, and it is for my niece Lauren. And it was a fun stitch. It was stitched with all the called for colors and the called for fabric, which I believe was a Witchelt and a 32 count. I was supposed to give it to her for Christmas and I forgot. I did give her something else, so I'm not the worst aunt and godmother in the world, but I would like to get it to her soon. So, but because I didn't, I figured I would show it on this video. So it was a fun stitch. She's 5, she loves ballet, so I hope that she will enjoy it for many years to come. So that was one of my recent finishes. My other recent finish was for my oldest daughter, my 15-year-old. She just turned 15 last week, and she has gone from ballerinas to teenager. And she loves, one of the things she loves is fantasy, YA fiction, and Harry Potter. And she's a Slytherin. And as much as that pained my Ravenclaw heart to do it, I stitched her, and I know this is backwards because my camera's in selfie mode, I'm not sure how to do it otherwise. But I stitched her, I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good, in Slytherin colors. And this pattern is by Fiddlesticks AU from Etsy. I don't believe it's available any longer, I'm sorry. I stitched it on 28 count Monaco, just the tube that you buy at Joann's or, you know, Michael's, AC Moore. And I coffee and tea dyed it myself to look like parchment. I used the Priscilla and Chelsea coffee dyeing and tea method. I love they have a video on coffee and tea dyeing, and if you're interested in trying it, I would recommend watching it. They make it very easy. I've played with it a little bit. Different color fabrics will take the color differently, and you know, depending on how you bake it or how much coffee and tea you put in. But it works really well. It's fun. It's fun to dye your own fabric. So this is I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. The banner is actually supposed to be a scarf, and it was striped with the green and the gray, but I didn't really like the stripes. I think it works for some of the houses. Like I think it works for Gryffindor. I'm not really sure it worked for Slytherin. So I did it as a banner instead of a scarf, and my daughter really likes it. So being the last minute stitcher that I am, I finished it at 4 p.m. on her birthday. So I finished it in time for her birthday dinner, but not in time to frame it. So hopefully I'll frame it in the next week or so. I need to measure it and see if I can find a frame that will fit it. I think I can. I think a 28 count is supposed to fit in an 8 by 10, but I haven't actually measured it. So I'm glad that she has enjoyed that. It was nice seeing her face when she opened it up. And as far as whips, like I said, I would like to finish a lot of projects this year because I want to start a lot of projects. So I have, I think, in the mid-30s for whips. I need to do an actual count. I was down to the mid-20s, and after I finished a lot, I obviously started a lot. So most of the things I started were small. Some were not. I started a Haid. So that won't be done anytime in the near future, but that's fine. Some things are just about the process, but I have a lot of things that were close to being done, or things that I would like done this year because I would like to display them. So the first few months of this year, I really want to focus on doing some finishes. finishing some things so I can look forward and planning some starts. So I've worked on 4 projects this year so far. I was kind of planning out a rotation, and then I joined a group on Facebook called School of Magical Stitches and Literature. And if you like Harry Potter, and you like reading, and you like stitching, it's a great group. And there are a lot of challenges. You're sorted into a house, and you have challenges to earn your house points. So now I'm looking through my projects I've started to try to earn my house points to fill the challenges without starting anything new. So I'm stitching on some projects that I probably wouldn't have pulled out this month, which is great. But there are a couple of projects I really want to finish, so I need to work on those too. So the projects I've worked on so far this month, and today is January 10th, I think, so the first 10 days of January. The first one is Spooky Countdown by the Primitive Hare. This was has been a very popular one on Facebook and on Flosstube. So I don't have a lot done. Once again, this is on a piece of fabric I dyed myself. So I love the way it looks. I hate the fabric. It's an MCG textile linen. The only thing it has in common with Zweigart is that it has holes. It is very uneven, but I'm trying to make it work for this project because I have it. And it looks really cool, but it's driving me a bit batty. So this is what I have done so far, is the top banner and the first 2 blocks, the start of the third. And I remembered how last year there was a bunch of people who were doing 1 block, I think 1 block a weekend, because if you did 1 block a weekend, you'd finish it by Halloween. And I decided to try to do that this year. There's been 1 weekend, so technically I'm a little bit ahead, but I figure I'm going to need that because block 3 is full coverage. And I know that there will be some weekends where I won't be able to touch it. So my current plan is to stitch on this, I think, Saturdays and Sundays for the month of January. And then we'll reassess, see where we are after that. So this next project is an Etsy project. And this is from a shop called Country Magic Stitch, I believe. And it is a travel poster of Hogs. So I saw that and I said, ooh, I really like that. And one thing I've learned in life is that never say never. If you'd asked me 15 years ago, would I ever stitch a Haid, I would have laughed. If you'd asked me if I'd ever do full coverage stitching, I would laugh. If you asked me if I'd ever stitch a sampler, I would laugh. I stitch all those things now. So I have a eclectic taste. I enjoy different things at different times. And I've learned in life with stitching and with children, never say never, because it might happen. So visit Hogsmeade. I started last year. I want to say in the fall. So I started at the top, working my way down. And Country Magic Stitch, I have to say, her projects, her charts are a joy to read. They stitch up really true to the picture. I mean, I think that looks really cool. I mean, the shading is amazing. Yeah, the shading is amazing, and I'm finally getting into the houses, and it's been a really fun stitch. I really enjoy this. I find this very relaxing to stitch on. It's full coverage without the confetti of a Haid. So I really enjoy it. This is on 16 count white Aida. Like I said, I like Aida for full coverage stitching because I find it very durable. The needle minder is from Jen Upton. So Jen does Flosstube, and she also has an Etsy shop, and she's great. She has some really nice things in her shop. Her Flosstubes are great. So that's Visit Hogs Me. I worked on that earlier this week. And I would like to finish that because I have two other travel posters. I have a Hogwarts Express and a Hogwarts. And I would like to do those too. But I don't want to start more than one at a time. Okay, the next one is a very old Blackbird Designs. It is Quaker Garden, and it's part of the Loose Feathers collection. Loose Feathers pattern number 19. My stash is a little bit of an archaeological dig. I have been stitching, like I said, since 1987, so there are a lot of things in it. Old things, new things. Luckily, when I went through and I unpacked those boxes, almost 100% of it was stuff I wanted to stitch still. So that's really good. And this was one of them. I know that this pattern, I found out a lot of people want this pattern. I don't think it was very widely released. And it is a gorgeous pattern. So I want to stitch things that I have that people can't get, so I can share it with a friend, possibly. This is stitched on the called for fabric with the called for fabric with the called for threads. And I gotta say, I love the pattern. Not necessarily a joy to stitch, at least not on the called for, because the called for fabric, I believe, is a 28 or 30 count weeks. Weeks is rough, very rough. And the called for threads are weeks. So it's a bit challenging to stitch on. If I had to do this again, I would stitch it on Swagart with Classic Colorworks or sampler threads. But in some weeks, but it's coming out beautiful. I enjoy stitching on it. This is one of my travel projects. I'm stitching it in hand so I can just throw it in my little bag and put it in my purse. So I'm almost halfway. There's a lot of little motifs, and it's enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. So one thing, as your children get older, if you have young children, you find out that you have a lot more time to stitch as they get older. At least I do, because I am constantly sitting at classes or lessons or waiting for somebody. So I keep a small project in a little zippered project bag in my purse, and I can get a few stitches in here or there. And it helps the time pass. The last project I've worked on so far this month, so 10 days, is that 4 projects? Pretty good. Is a Lila Studio. I think this was probably one of the first Lila Studio designs. It's a wedding sampler. It's called Join Your Hands, second version. And believe it or not, it's actually done in 2 colors. It's done in a weeks and in a sampler threads. If I had to do it again, I just would have picked one over dye red, because I really can't tell the difference even looking at my stitch piece, the different color threads. So as I said, I've been married for 18 years and I don't have a wedding sampler. So I would like to have a wedding sampler. I bought this when it first came out, and I think it was probably one of Lila Studio's first patterns. I started it, and I'm stitching it on 36 count Edinburgh. It's either in ivory or antique white, I'm not really sure which. And I am about halfway done. But what I realized when I started it, after I chose a 36 count, is that all the writing is over one. There's a lot of writing in the sampler. So I have done the whole top part, and I did the top writing over one. So let's see. I mean, it's really beautiful, and I love it. It's really nice to work on. Even the over one isn't bad, as long as I kind of psych myself up to work on it and do it a little bit here and there. I have really a lot of over one left, and I need to chart out the names, my husband and my name, and where we got married. And what I want to do is break up the one over one, do a word and do a little bit more somewhere else. Because if I leave all the over one stitching to last, it's not going to happen. So I would like this to be my focus piece for now. By focus piece, I would like to work on it 3 to 4 times, 3 to 4 days a month until it's done. And I think I can probably finish it by May or June if I do that. And I really would like to get this done and framed before we're married for 20 years. And I think my husband would enjoy it too. So that's going to be my focus piece for the next few months. So far, I've worked on it this month 3 days. So I would like to work on it another 2 days. Although one of those days, I think I'm just going to take time with graph paper to chart out some of the writing so I can start putting that in. I've always done the writing of names on graph paper. I probably should explore to see if it's easier to do with some cross-stitch software, because I end up putting it off because I just hate doing it. So maybe I'll do that. And as far as stitching plans for the next week or two, I would like to continue working on some of those whips. Like I said, Spooky Countdown, I'm going to try to work on for weekends. The Live Studio will get another 2 to 3 days this month, and then again next month. And right now, Quaker Garden is my travel piece, so that will get some time. Something else I have started that I would like to work on this month too is Satsuma Street, 12 Days of Christmas. I started this with a friend in Stitchy Friend in September, and our plan was to do 1 block a month, and we'll have it stitched, framed, up on the wall for Christmas 2019. So it should be September, October, November, December, January. So I should be on block 5. I'm on block 3. So I would like to catch up. I would like to do at least finish block 3 and 4 this month, and probably do 2 blocks a month until I catch up. The blocks aren't that big. They're fun to stitch. It doesn't take that long. I just need to pull it out. This is just on white 28 count Monaco, the tube of fabric. And I have a stitching friend who stitched it in my local stitching group that I've reconnected with, and it's really, really cute when it's done. The colors are great. Satsuma Street has a great I love Satsuma Street's color sense. Colors that you wouldn't pick to choose for Christmas, but you know, they work together, and it's fun to have a Christmas design that's not red and green. So I would like to do blocks 3 and 4 in January. And one other thing I would like to do this month is I would like to start the linen things 2019 Sal. Linen things, there is a Facebook group, and they do it's a free Sal, one part a month, and this year is peacock themed. They did a 2017-18 Sal. I did not do either one. I would like to go back and get the 2017 because I really, really like that piece. They're very big, those 2017, 2018. This one's a smaller piece, and I figure I might be able to keep up with it. I'm not really sure what fabric I'm going to use. I'll stash dive and see what I can come up with. I'm toying with the idea of doing 28 count over 1. But as you can see, I'm doing a lot of over 1 stitching with my wedding sampler, so we might choose something a little bit different and not do 28 count over 1. I do like small count fabrics. I do really enjoy stitching on 40 count, and I have a lot of 40 count in my stash, so I might end up doing it 1 over 2 on 40 count. We'll see. Hopefully by the next video I'll have it started so you can see what I decide to do. So that's my plans. I guess this is good thing to finish on Flosstube video number 1. Thank you for watching if you hit this point. And I would like to, as you can see, I still have Christmas up. It's one of the reasons why I figured let's try to do a video right now, because my Christmas tree is still up and I really like my Christmas tree. I have a little Christmas tree in the corner of my kitchen that makes me happy to look at, and it's past January 1st. It's past Little Christmas, so it will be coming down this weekend. But while it was still up, I figured let's do a video. Once Christmas is down this weekend, I would like to go through my whips and hopefully do a whip parade at some point. The magic of the whip parade is what really drew me in to Flosstube. My husband was away for work, he was traveling, and after the kids would go to bed, I didn't really want to watch, regular TV. I would go on Flosstube and look at whip parades, and I think they're fun. And there has been another resurgence of people doing whip parades number 2, or people who haven't done whip parades, new Flosstubers starting to do whip parades. So I'd like to do a whip parade. So my next video might be a whip parade. Like I said, I think I have between 30 and 35 whips, let's say 32.5. And I guess we'll see how close to that count I really am. So thank you for watching. I look forward to watching your videos too. Thank you. Goodbye.